Hey guys, welcome to my review of season 1 of Iron Fist on Netflix. Brand new show just came out. I just finished watching it literally less than 5 minutes ago, and I just want to kind of dissect this with you guys and let you know what I thought, what I didn't like, what I did like, and we'll kind of go over that. So we're going to start with the pilot. By the way, my name's Chris. Welcome to the channel, and hopefully I'll be doing more of these reviews on different TV shows. I really love TV shows, so let's take this thing apart. The pilot episode, first of all, let's go on pros. Pros of the episode. Pilot, I liked most of the casting. I really, at first, I wasn't sure about the guy they cast to play the Iron Fist. But by the end of the first episode, I was like, hey, I can get on board with this. He's a nice distinction from, the other characters in the Defenders universe. Locations looked great, as per usual. It felt a lot bigger than like Luke Cage, for example, which I really liked. The colors were great. It wasn't, I don't feel like, as stylized as, say, Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, but all the locations looked really cool. Like the colors, everything just looked great. Like they have great set design and everything like that. So as far as cons go, the pilot, in my opinion, was way too slow. Like way, way, way too slow. Not that it wasn't interesting, but in my opinion, when you're launching a character like this, you need to show me how cool he is pretty quickly. Like we've been around this roller coaster before, Like we've watched Daredevil, we've watched Jessica Jones, we've watched Luke Cage, and so to start out an episode where almost nothing happens, it's a mistake in my opinion. I think you need to launch him with like a really awesome Iron Fist scene where he does something awesome with the Iron Fist, just so that we care how he got it, so that we care where he came from, and that just doesn't happen in the first episode. There's a little bit of action scenes, but as far as Iron Fist coolness goes, there's not much there. Some of the dialogue's pretty cheesy. That's something that doesn't really change throughout the show. Some of the dialogue is just bad. And that's been the case throughout, all the shows on Netflix for Marvel. But, it's not so bad that it's unwatchable, And some of the acting, especially, and here's my one casting problem that sticks out to me as just terrible, is him as a younger Danny Rand. The kid just doesn't, first of all, doesn't look anything like Danny Rand. And I mean, so Harold and his two kids, Joy and Ward, who are some of the main characters in the show, they don't look a ton alike, if I'm being honest. Like I can see Joy kind of being related to him, but I was like, but then they never show you his wife, so maybe, I don't know. I guess all white people look the same in this world. Anyone can look like, it's just me, whatever. Also, any of you complaining about the fact that they didn't cast an Asian to play the Iron Fist is just the dumbest argument. I think the acting was pretty solid. I thought actually that a lot of the side characters were better actors than the main characters sometimes. For a while, I was trying to figure out who plays Joy. Meacham? But it's the sister. Apparently, she likes to play a sister on The Following, which I really enjoyed. So that was a welcome surprise. At first, I thought Ward might be a bad actor, but he really grew on me as a character. I think he looks the part 100%. He looks like just a guy who grew up rich. He's got the slick back black hair and all that. Something that I liked that I kind of, this is a little bit of a spoiler-ish thing. So there's a homeless guy they introduced in the first episode that I really, I liked his character. I liked what he added to the kind of world that they were building. I was hoping he would play like a part throughout the entire season, and he doesn't. So, I mean, that's all I'm going to say about it. I hope you guys watch it. I do think it's like worth watching. Just not enough happens to really launch the show, in my opinion. The girl that he meets, the Asian chick that is like the dojo master or whatever, she's awesome. Like I enjoyed her throughout the entire show. I thought she was great. Every time she was in it, I was like, okay, like I think she's one of the better actors in the show. And honestly, like I was surprised how much I liked that character, because usually one of my biggest problems with some of these Marvel Netflix shows is that the side characters are so annoying. Like, I hate Daredevil's friends. I think they're terrible. Like, oh, his buddy. Oh, what's his name? He has a dumb name. Anyways, he's terrible. I don't think he's that great of an actor. Scully. I don't know what his name. It doesn't really matter. But what I mean to say is that I feel like the acting, actually in Luke Cage, never mind, the bad guys had good acting. I don't remember who his, other than Rosario Dawson, who's amazing. They do have a little fake out Rosario Dawson moment in the first episode that I really liked, actually. But yeah, another thing that was a little irritating was that his costume, right? So he comes from wherever in Asia or something in the Himalayas, manages to find his way to the United States, and then he's wearing these like dirty old clothes for a real long time, like way too long. He's barefoot, whatever. It's like, okay, I get it. He was raised in a monastery or whatever. But come on, like after like a half an hour, I was like, why hasn't anyone helped this guy know that he needs new clothes? And there's so now we're getting into spoiler things, but I really like the twist at the end where we find out that Harold is still alive. I thought that was a really interesting twist. I was really intrigued by that. I wanted to see what was going to happen, and so I think in that way it was a good point to end on. I just feel like they could have started it a little stronger. The weird Googling guy at Harold's office, I thought was an interesting character. I love how innocent Danny is. I mean, it makes sense. When he was 10 years old, he gets taken to this monastery, right? And so he wouldn't have grown up in America. He hasn't grown up in our world where we don't trust people and that like you get all this information from the internet, all this stuff. Like he grew up in a very closed society, so he wouldn't be so untrusting like normally I think we would be. Yeah, I really like and he's such a nice guy. You could tell like his personality. He just seems like a real like genuinely nice person, and I think that was an interesting character to introduce because none of the other defenders are that way. Another thing that I've noticed, because I watch The Flash, I watch Arrow, and one of the things that got old with Arrow, and I don't know if it's just the stuntmen or the way that it's shot, the fighting gets old. Like I've seen all the Daredevil and the Luke Cage, and it's just after a while with the fighting, it just looks like they're doing it on purpose. Like it doesn't look fluid like they're actually fighting each other. It looks like they're doing a little rehearsed dance. And that it just takes away from it, I think. I enjoyed it. I think it's worth checking out. And we're going to go ahead and one last thing, though. And I didn't mind it as much on the first episode, but the title sequence is about 10 seconds too long. The title sequence is cool. I actually enjoyed it. I think the going with just straight black and grays and stuff hurt it. It's really bland looking. Whereas I feel like the Daredevil one, Jessica Jones, like all of them have been more interesting to watch. They had the motion down, but the colors I feel like going with just black didn't work very well. And like I said, it's just about 10 seconds too long. He does this swirling up thing. I feel like if they would have just moved the camera and like had him shoot upward, like shoot the energy or whatever upward, and then like it shoots and just fades into Iron Fist, that would have been perfect. But instead, he like shoots the energy up kind of, and then it just goes to a different kicking sequence. It goes for about 10 more seconds, and then it just fades to Iron Fist. That's just my opinion. So yeah, after about 6 episodes, I just started skipping the intro because it's just not that interesting to watch. So in episode 2, it is more interesting. So in episode 2, he's been, I think, committed to... so at the end of episode 1, he's drugged by Joy. And it's interesting because, they did a good job of making characters more gray, where they act in a way that's more realistic, right? They're not 100% bad. They're not 100% good. I did think it was a little weird that Joy, who believed he was Danny, was like, yeah, let's drug him and send him to a psych ward. That was a little weird. But once again, the episode is a little too slow. Like, it takes place in just the psych ward, and it is, uh, it's a little boring. It's information you need to know, but it's kind of like, okay, when's he gonna get out? The whole episode, and these episodes are not short. These are hour-long episodes. So, and it's a full hour. It's not like television hour where 20 minutes of commercials gets cut. This is like a full hour, and it's a bit much, in my opinion, for what it was. I do like how they had him. So in the psych ward, he's trying to convince the doctors and everybody that he's not crazy, right? That he's in there, that he's actually Danny Rand. That's the big thing. He's trying to convince everyone, and that was one of the problems in even the first episode at the end. She's like, "All right, tell me what prove to me that you're Danny Rand," and then it's like he's been saying the whole time, like, "I just want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you," and then he has a chance, and he has like no clue what he's gonna say, which I feel like is a problem with the show as a whole as it goes on, is that sometimes he's like so dumb that it's like a little cringy to watch, but and almost like unrealistically stupid at some points. But we'll move on. So the crazy guy that threatens them at the beginning, I thought was an interesting character. The whole like putting him in a psych ward it's a little bit suspenseful, but the problem is that you lose the suspense because crazy people are interesting because you don't know what they're going to do. It's like watching a lion or something, It's like, are they just going to walk by like normal? Are they going to attack whatever's near them? Like you don't know what's going to happen. And that's one thing that was very interesting about the following, was that it's just crazy people can be terrifying because you don't know what they're going to do. And so they didn't really play on that after the beginning. They kind of have like a little fight breakout with him and some rando guy, but they didn't use it enough for it to be suspenseful or interesting throughout the episode. I think that was a weak point. But I do think it was interesting character development for the what's his name, Harold, and his son. They had some interesting character development. You kind of see the power, not struggle, but influence that Harold has over Ward. And at first, because in the first episode, even the second episode, Ward seems like a pretty big douchebag. He seems like a real tool. And so you start noticing more and more like Ward is just, he's taking orders and he's slowly getting tired of it. And then finally, Iron Fist uses his power, right? He punches the door off of the psych ward and he leaves, and it's like, okay, finally. Like, he couldn't use his power because they kept dragging him every 8 hours. And then finally he's able to use his power to punch his way out. And it's like, okay, this is what the first episode needed to start with, This is something we needed to see like real quick off the bat. Maybe even just showing him like a flashback of when he trained in Kunlun or whatever that place is called. Just showing him do something with the Iron Fist. Something, because he really didn't have that standout moment early on for us to like really want to know him. And then, finally starts using the past to prove who he is. He starts actually explaining himself, which is nice. Because at first he's just like, I just want to explain myself. And then like, no one will let him. And then like, now he's actually like using past memories that are very specific so that people know he's not lying. It's the things that you can't Google, which makes sense. And so it's like the M&Ms with the girl and etc. But I really like that they finally had him start using his brain more. That was nice. A nice touch. But yeah, I just think it would be easier to enjoy him as a character and want to know more about his past, because they depend heavily on flashbacks in this show. And I feel like if you showed him at his full capacity, right off the bat, it would be more interesting to be like, oh, how did he get there? Episode 3. Okay, and by this time, the brother-sister thing is getting kind of weird. It's almost like a weird sexual tension between them. Wasn't a big fan of that. Not a big fan of Game of Thrones for that reason. The whole incest thing is odd. But yeah, wasn't a fan of the whole... It gets weird at points where I'm like, are they like a thing? Is this like a gladiator deal where like he likes her, but it's like a weird family thing, Freudian, whatever. Yeah, so that gets a little weird. Um, they finally connect Iron Fist with another show. They did the Rosario Dawson fake out at the beginning where it looks like she gets on an elevator, but she doesn't. It's somebody else. And then they introduced the attorney from Jessica Jones. Her name is Hogarth, I believe. And that was cool. It was like, oh, okay, now we're like starting to connect shows because this is the last show, guys. The Defenders is next, as far as I know. So at this point, we need to be doing as much connecting as possible so that the Defenders can take off. Hopefully, oh my gosh, if they spend 8 episodes of the Defenders like getting them together, oh guys, it's gonna be so boring. Yeah, so hopefully that's not the thing. For example, like the one of the reasons I hated X-Men Apocalypse, they spend 90% of that movie wandering around like recruiting people. It's so boring. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, that's a different show. We're moving on. She starts doing so she finds out one of her student has been street fighting for money. She needs money. She makes a deal last episode or first episode with Danny that he's gonna be paying part of her rent. And then I don't know if it's because she kicked him out or something that she didn't think he was gonna do it, or I don't know what it was. Anyways, she needs money. So she goes to street fight in this cage match out in the middle of nowhere, like on the edge of the city. And just demolishes this huge guy, which is cool. It's like a fun fight to watch. She kind of loses it. It was a little weird because she had just, made. It was weird that she would go to that but not reach out to Danny Rand. Like that was the only thing that was odd to me. I was like, oh, she'll like chastise a kid for doing it, but she'll do it before asking Danny to just like pay what he said he was gonna pay. I don't know. That was just odd to me. But it's part of her like B story plot. So they do need to have her do that, I guess. But yeah, so it's really cool that during this time, so Danny has the whole time, and you realize that Danny like really just wants someone to like be in his life, someone that he can trust, like family. Danny wants family so bad. And it's one of like the most endearing parts of his character, I think. And like he's so likable that it almost doesn't make sense like why people don't trust him immediately, because he's like a genuinely likable character, and I think the actor is a big part of that. And so when he finds out like that they're just being jerks to him, trying to like get him out of the company and everything, he's like, I don't even, it's so great because they finally realize that like he doesn't really care about money. Like if they would have just been nice to him, things would have been great. Because he confronts them at a restaurant. I mean, he finally gets normal clothes. Oh my gosh, finally. And then he goes in, confronts him, and then he's like, I think Joy says, but either way, both of them are like, you're not related to us. Like, we're not family. And that cuts him deep. And it's like, oh gosh, you can like see it. And he's like, I have no one. Like, he has nobody. And you feel so bad for him. But it's like, you realize how much, like, now he has nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Like, he's not worried about them not liking him anymore, or letting him into their lives or whatever. And so it's like, uh-oh, like you messed up. You should not have done that. And so it's just, I don't know. It was a cool moment, I think, when he like realizes that he has nobody. And so it throws him off. You know, he goes to the chick's dojo, the Asian chick's dojo. I'm gonna look up her name real quick so I don't just keep saying Asian chick. I feel like that's rude because she's a great actress, guys. And it's a little bit rude. What is her character's name? We'll find it out, guys. It is Colleen. It's kind of a weird name, kind of an old name. That's why I couldn't remember it. Anyways, so Colleen goes to Colleen's dojo. He walks in, the kids are being disrespectful or something, and he like swats the kid's leg with one of those practice wooden swords and just like sweeps his legs, and she's like, you gotta go, man. Pretty great. But anyways, it shows that he's like losing touch because she asked him specifically like not to teach or try to do anything in her classes. And that was part of their deal. And then they introduced the hand finally, which has been, the big organization that's been fighting Daredevil and all them. So, uh, in my opinion, episode 3 was the best episode thus far into the season. I really enjoyed it. So, I do recommend the show. Having watched the whole thing, I place it above Jessica Jones and above Luke Cage. I don't know if I reviewed Luke Cage, but in my opinion, just the quick overview, Luke Cage was. I feel like the villains were very interesting, but the season as a whole was very boring. It was very hard to care about anything. It didn't make sense. His motivations for most things didn't make sense. That was just my personal feeling about that. But yeah, I put it below Daredevil, but above Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and I really I think it's worth watching if you're okay with like Daredevil season 2 because it gets pretty intense at some points. So that's my review, and I hope you can check out the future ones. I'm gonna be doing the rest of the show here shortly, and I'll let you know what I think about the whole thing as a whole.